Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about muscle soreness and DOMS because it's one of the things that comes up. And I get a lot of people who ask in the comments, they'll say things like, "Oh, I'm not getting sore anymore," or "I'm using this free program of yours and I'm not really getting sore," right? Is this a problem? And it's because people have this really bizarre idea that they associate being sore or getting DOMS with an effective workout. And that's just simply not the case. And I'm not saying there aren't elements of an effective workout that can cause a little bit of soreness, because there are, but there are more factors that are actually bad that can cause soreness than there are factors that are good. So what is it that actually makes us sore? Number one, large amounts of eccentric loading, right? Large amounts of eccentric loading, which can actually be beneficial for hypertrophy. Number two, too much volume of a novel training response. Number three, increasing volume too much too quickly. Number four, training too infrequently. In other words, if you don't train often enough, you get sore. So, perfect example, leg day memes, right? Leg day memes. "Oh, I couldn't walk after leg day." Really? You guys have seen me squat 605 on a cambered bar, do 3 sets of 20 with 300 pounds afterwards, do all my other supplemental work, and not complain about DOMS the next day, and come back and did legs again 3 days later. I didn't get sore from that. If you're getting sore from leg day, here's why. You're only training your legs once a week. You're not training them often enough. So you have infrequent training stimulus. Number two, come back over, you're probably using too much volume on the one day that you do them, right? Probably doing too much volume. If you start exceeding 10 sets, 10 real serious work sets per muscle group in a single workout, yeah, your soreness is going to oftentimes be higher. You start exceeding 15, definitely. But what do we know based on the research? When you start going over 10 sets for a muscle group in a session, it doesn't cause extra muscle growth for most muscles. There are exceptions. Things like quads and triceps, get away with a bit more. Usually when we start hitting like 15 sets for a muscle, you actually gain less muscle. According to the research that we have, it produces less muscle growth. 20 produces even less. So if you're doing too much volume, you're not only getting sore, you're not even gaining as much muscle than if you had just stopped a few sets short. People say, "Is that overtraining?" No, it's not overtraining. Just a lot of reasons that have to do with your stress recovery adaptation cycle. So your volume's just higher than optimal. Not always a good thing, and in some studies it does produce a less muscle growth in trained lifters. But that's why people get sore on the leg days. Combination of excessive volume from a single session while training too infrequently. I usually recommend upper lower 4 day a week. That's what I program for myself. It's what I program for my clients. I think that's your baseline. And I don't think people should deviate from that without a good reason. If you got a good reason, then fine. But I really believe that is the best baseline training approach. But the frequency is an issue. Body part splits tend to make you sore because you're not training the muscles often enough. They are detraining a little bit by the time you get to them again. And then to make up for it, people do a ton of volume, excessive volume in that one session. But those are your four factors that cause muscle soreness. So let's look at them a little bit. All right, eccentrics. All right, well, eccentric loading, particularly eccentric overload, has been associated positively with muscle growth, right? Not saying it's required. You can maximize muscle growth without doing any eccentric reps. Just in case people were curious, it can be done. It's just not the most efficient way to do it, right? It's not the most efficient way to do it. But yeah, having eccentric loading can absolutely stimulate hypertrophy, and it's a good tool in your toolbox for stimulating muscle growth. It's a tool we can't discount. If you do too much of it in one session, you're going to get DOMS. And here's the thing. If you're doing enough of it in one session to get DOMS, you might have done more of it than was optimal. And I'm not saying a little bit sore, right? Getting a little sore is not really a big deal, a little minor soreness. So when you have a muscle that hurts for 2 or 3 days, this is probably problematic. It's probably more volume than you really needed. In this case, the eccentric loading. All right, what about novel training response? This is the big one. This is usually what gets us. I get this. This is the only thing that ever makes me sore personally. If I take a deload and I come in and I do too many sets on a newer exercise afterwards, or I add an exercise in, like let's say I haven't done Romanian deadlifts for a long time and I come in and I push them really hard, my hamstrings and my abductors are going to hurt. So if we add in a novel training response like that, we need to think through how much volume do I really need to do the first session doing it. It's a novel training response. Do I have to push the bleeding edge? Do I need 3 or 4 sets taken all the way to failure? Probably not. Particularly coming off of something like a deload week, because you haven't trained really in a week. It's going to increase your chance of soreness. That will do it. So again, novel training response. You're not necessarily getting more growth just because you got sore from it. Novel training response, you can take it a little easier the first time doing the movement on the volume. I'm not saying to puss out and not work hard. You don't need a lot of volume a lot of times when you first add a new movement in. You can do 3 sets. You can leave a rep in the tank, rep or 2 in reserve. You don't have to push it to the bleeding edge. You're going to get a training response just from the novel response with quality sets, right? You're going to get a hypertrophic response anyways. You get excessive with it, you're going to get sore. And you may not get any extra growth out of it, right? So we have all of those. And that's really your factors, right? Because we kind of covered everything there. Eccentric loading, particularly when your eccentric loading volume is too high. Too much volume in a session. And again, when I talk about sets, so we can count certain things as half sets, right? A row is only a half set for biceps. Chin up is a full set for biceps. Bench press probably half set for your triceps. Overhead press half set for triceps. So on and so forth. But yeah, when we start exceeding for most muscles more than about 10 really high quality work sets, probably going to get sore. And you're probably not getting any extra muscle growth out of it. So it's not really associated with growth there. Too much volume on a novel training response, novel movement, right? Something you haven't done. Be the way you execute a movement. That can contribute if the volume gets too high. But if you mitigate the volume, you'll still get all the benefits of the novel training response. You get less sore, right? And the really big one, again, that's going to be completely counterproductive is the infrequent training. You are simply not training a muscle often enough, very often when you get sore. And again, AKA body part splits. They make you crippled after your leg day. And they don't even help build legs that well. It's less effective. You're going to have smaller legs and you're going to hurt more. Right? So again, training frequency has to be considered. And in that case, you're actually getting less results while getting a lot more sore. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.